Alright, this is a video about the Hoboken, New Jersey proposed skate park. I believe it's called Castle Point. Alright, why did I pick this location? I did just a cursory search on current skate park proposed locations. Hoboken came up on a Google search. It's an interesting site. It's on the waterfront. And the current closed skate park site is tiny and was all wood ramps and just is not, whoever designed it is kind of a 80s layout or something like that. So I decided that I would go ahead and do this skate park design. I did one before this. It was a canned skate park design, meaning that it was just a theoretical location. And this one is an actual location that I was able to work with. All right, so if you're someone from Hoboken, New Jersey, and you're watching this video for that particular reason, we'll go ahead and jump to the skate park here. I have not worked with an actual site before. I've been to plenty of skate parks, rode plenty of skate parks way back. I've even skated some of the skate parks before I rode bicycles on them. So lots and lots of skate parks out here in the Northwest. I live on I-5 corridor, and there are tons and tons of them. Probably go to 20 or 30 of them. Good skate parks along the I-5 corridor. And then you've got Northern California and Central Southern California, so there's just tons of them. So what should I say about this park? I think we'll go over, I made myself a list of things that would pertain to skate parks from a city's point of view. This video is not going to be about the Solidworks portion, although I did use Solidworks to do this park. A lot of the designers are using SketchUp or Rhino. Rhino is obviously a much more robust choice. My personal opinion of SketchUp would be that it's a very sucky choice as far as concrete design. I don't think it has the modeling tools and the mathematical tools to do a good job at park design. So if you're in here for the park design, that'll be on another video. This video really is directed at the city of Hoboken or the Parks Department or whoever's going to be managing this. So we'll kind of go through this and we'll discuss sort of what you guys have on your website or maybe some of the different comments about it. And then we will discuss all the different aspects of skate park design. So we're going to borrow the one that they've put out. This is a whole bunch of different articles that go back to around September of 24. This happens to be on skateboarding.com. You know, I'm not sure where this rendering came from, what program, or if it's an artist rendering. I just have no clue what they used to do this. Can't tell if it's computer. I think it's computer generated. Don't know if this is SketchUp or Blender or what they used here, but we're going to go over my list here. So let's see, what order should we do these in? I think from a city standpoint, what we're going to do is we're going to hit maintenance costs first, because over the lifetime of the park, which might be 10 to 20 years, those are what really matter. The rest of them, other than policing and emergency egress, maintenance costs really are what the city should care about. And so, being next to the river, obviously, I would imagine this is classified as a floodplain. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the road that's on the right side over there. And we're going to call that ground zero or elevation zero for the sake of the conversation. The entire skate park needs to be, we'll call it Z0 plus. You really do not want flooding from the river or a lot of rain to be able to fill up any of these structures and not have adequate drainage. So when I look at this site, I think to myself that drainage is number one. That's highest priority. So all of the pools, all the transitions, everything needs to be up from Z0, which is the road. So the road being the lowest point, everything's got to be above that. The other thing I see about this artist rendering is lots of shrubs. And so if I get a chance, I'll put in some pictures here. However, we can just talk about this scene here. So the idea is that there are a ton of trees there. Now, the ones in the middle there on the right, so it would be on this side over here, those look like evergreens. They're going to drop needles all year long. I don't know how much they're going to shed, but they're going to shed some. The trees over on, well, for you guys, it would be right here where my finger is. All these trees that run along that path, those all look to be deciduous. So every year those trees are going to drop their leaves. I think we'll address, I'm going to pull this back in here. So the next thing would be landscaping upkeep. So for the island in the middle and all of this treescaping and brush that runs around the outside of the park, all that stuff has to have drip irrigation. All that stuff has to have adequate soil to grow into. All of that stuff requires park maintenance. And I have news for the city. It's going to get trashed by skaters and bikers. So my first recommendation is that this be what they call an all-wheel park. If you make it skateboard only, the bikers are just going to come early in the morning. You're going to be constantly running them off. And then when the city gets tired of running people off and starts to ignore the park, which will happen after a year or two, they're just going to do what they want. They're going to ride there whenever they can get away with it. Doesn't matter how many times you ticket them. Doesn't matter how much you think you're going to enforce no bikes. They're going to be there. And then what do you do about scooters? Is it going to be wheelchair accessible? So a consideration for a lot of the cities is if you make it wheelchair accessible, you may be able to get federal funding for some of the park or some of the skate park. So is it accessible to wheelchairs? Is it an all-wheel park or is it just a skate park? And I very much resent this idea, even as a skater, that only skateboards can go there because you're excluding a huge part of the extreme sports community. And it just creates animosity when the bikers do show up if it's a skate-only park. So totally against that. But back to the landscaping, you are going to have all that landscaping that looks pretty in this rendering. It's going to be all over the park. It's going to be dead. You're going to have emitters get clogged up or broken off. You're going to have people throw soda cans, beer bottles, and trash in that landscaping. They're going to, if it's bark, they're going to kick the bark out all over the place. They're going to ride their bikes and skateboards and walk through all that crap. And what you find out is that after a year or two, parks get basically, if you were writing a list of maintenance items and you are the parks department, skate parks go on the very bottom. And like I said, I've been to hundreds of skate parks over 20 or 30 years, and all of them, period, are neglected. They are unmaintained. You end up with homeless people around them. And when I say you end up with homeless people, I mean that it's an easy place for vagrants to hang out. It doesn't mean that they attract vagrants. It just means that if I'm a drunk guy, I can hide in the bowl and sleep and be left alone. And that happens a lot. So it would be my recommendation to the city of Hoboken that you do the minimal amount of planting as possible. The less plants you have, the less maintenance you're going to have. You have to remember that in the fall, when all those leaves drop into the park, you have to go clean them out, especially if you have small, inadequate drainage. So the moment those leaves clog the bottom of the drains in the pool there, or in the bowl, that bowl's going to turn into a swimming pool. You're going to have one of your Parks Department guys dive to the bottom and clean it out. So it would be my recommendation that you take very seriously how much plantings you have around the park. We're going to talk about, I think, liability next. Okay, next on the list is liability, and there's a couple components to this. So it actually made me think of the leaves again, just to touch on it one more time. Leaves are a slippery surface in the rain, and they actually provide some small amount of a liability issue. If it's one thing to hurt yourself at the skate park because it's a known hazardous sport, that's how it's listed for the insurance companies, I believe, these days. It's a whole nother thing that where the city hasn't cleaned leaves up and someone slips and falls and hits their head. And, they've got eyewitnesses that shows that it's not a park problem. It's actually a maintenance problem where the leaves haven't been cleaned up. So I think I just don't like landscaping at the park, in the park, because it always ends up on the park. Leaves, sticks, twigs, dirt, bark, rock, all end up in the park, and those are all things you don't want in the park. Skateboards have small wheels. Second part of the liability that we're going to talk about, let me zoom out here. So we are going to actually look at this area over here. What you're going to end up having is you're going to have people that cross from the park over the grass onto the sidewalk here. In fact, what you're going to end up with, a lot of if bikes are going to ride it, they're going to come along here, ride through the grass, and end up at the park. I don't see any seating at the park. I didn't notice any real benches. I see two people pretending to sit here, but you need a place. In this photo, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So according to this scape artist, and now that I'm seeing the logo in the bottom corner there, according to this scape company, what did I say? There was 12 or 14 people there. Well, I have news for you. When you've got a guy ripping around the park, you probably have 1 to 2 people skating and everybody else is watching. So where do the other 12 people sit? And that's something about this rendering I saw that I didn't like. There's little to no seating. So you're going to have guys, sitting on the rocks over here that I see? And you're going to have bikes end up establishing kind of a trail through the grass here where everybody rides through into the park. So another thing I see as a problem is liability, and this is interactions between park participants and sidewalk pedestrians and the road. I'm going to move this back out of the way. So, especially bikes can come off any part of this park and end up at the sidewalk over here. And I would imagine there's a possibility that they can end up on the sidewalk next to the boardwalk here. Neither of those are going to be interactions that you want happening that's not at an entrance to the park. Especially with bikes, you can have people going at high speeds and, 300 near misses to every one accident. So, again, I don't think you want this access, especially on the busy roadside there. You don't want access from the park to the road or even the sidewalk. You don't want people from the park just being able to cut across And worse yet, they end up out in this busy road because if I remember right, it's a pretty busy road. So for sure, I would put a fence. I would do a welded fence. So a comment about fences. If you try to do a chain link fence, they always get destroyed. Period. End of story. You cannot do a chain link fence. They don't work, and they get trashed. In fact, case in point, if I remember the old site that's there now, the fence is trashed, and it's a chain link fence. So you have to do a welded structure. You have to do tubing that's welded, that will last, that's thick wall, it's heavy wall. Being next to the river there, I would actually not do powder coated. I would be, if there's a cold galvanized product, I would do galvanized fencing. If there's not a good galvanized product, I'd do stainless steel. And we'll take a look at what I've got around the park. It's a little jail looking, but there are a whole bunch of different designs that I had sketched up. So actually, we're not going to take a look at them on this video, but we'll look at it in the design. So I think that's about it for liability. I would totally limit access to the sidewalk on the east side of the park. I would not allow there to be any interaction between the park and the sidewalk or road other than the entrance. So the last part of this is going to be, we're going to lump lighting, visibility, which would be policing, terrain, which would be skate park terrain, and emergency egress. We're going to lump all of those together. And I'm going to go ahead and move the notepad completely off the screen here, and we're going to get rid of this skate park rendering, and we're going to talk about the actual design. All right, so here's the skate park that I'm proposing, and you'll see we'll go over from the city standpoint. We're going to go over visibility, liability, type of terrain, and emergency egress. We'll do emergency egress first because it's quick to cover. So we've got access to the park in this location here that are stairs. We've got access at the waterfront with some greenery against this side of the park. We've got another access point down here at this end of the park. And then we've got a large set of steps back here where I'm assuming there's going to be, I saw a rendering of kind of a convergence. Personally, I think this should be a food court area, but that's just my opinion. So this is an actual 3D design. We'll tab over to the assembly, which in SolidWorks, my CAD program, it's called an assembly, but we'll tab over to what's also got the railing. So we'll go to the stairs here first. Let's see, do we want a different view? I think we'll stick with the big view here for the city, or for the presentation of normal people. So we've got stairs here. It would be my recommendation that along the front here where my mouse is, that you would put up another barrier like this, some type of decorative railing. You don't want anybody coming off these stairs and ending up out in the road. So you could put a bike rack here. From the aerial photograph, this looked like in the rendering it was going to be taken out. But what I would do is maybe put a bike rack over here, and then put railing here, or a railing here that's also a bike rack. So this is egress at the southwest end of the park. Frank Sinatra Drive is right here. Then there would be a nice wide sidewalk over here, and this would be your ADA accessible location right here. And what it does, you're not going to have very many people coming across the park like this. So this exit should allow for low speed entrance. You have an obstacle here, and you have a street area up here. And so you're going to have some, but you're going to be able to look back here as you're entering the park and you're going to be able to see if anybody's coming towards you. So you're probably not going to jump this backwards. And then this is more of a high-speed area. It's a narrower opening. Still ADA accessible, but this is one of the tallest parts of the park here, so theoretically this could be a faster section. Don't know whether or not that entrance should exist, but it's proposed in my design. And then one of my favorite parts of the park is this street section up here. I don't actually have, there should be some rails and maybe some grind curbs up here, but these arched steps I think provides a really neat architectural feature for the park. So what I have the park laid out, I've got, I'm sorry to spin this around. This section here would be a street section, which flows out into a big open area. This line across the back here is for BMX, across this face here, all the way down. These are all kind of transition areas. This area up here would be, it would be my preference that this would have a gazebo above it. This is a viewing area. This is a very large bench area, stadium seating kind of. And this faces out into the open part of the park here. And then you have a dedicated bowl over here, and you have some more street features on this side. And I ran out of puff, but there should be some low handrails in this flat area. What I've tried to do near the openings is have curbing that would sort of deflect traffic away from ending up out there. Now they can purposely do it, of course, but you don't have traffic out here at least, but you may have some pedestrians. So that's sort of the layout of the park. I think one of the important things that we were going to talk about was visibility. So police can easily see in through these low sections into each area. They can certainly see into this area right here. I don't know how you guys do your policing, if it's bicycle or if the cops all actually drive down these paved paths or what. But as they're going by, this whole section's open here, and then this whole section's open here. So really the only part, the only areas of the park where you could really kind of hide would be behind this stadium seating maybe. And then obviously the bowl is a place to kind of hide. And I look at these things as both someone who uses the park, but I'm no dummy. I also look at it from a policing perspective, a city perspective. So let's see what else. We were going to cover emergency egress. We covered visibility, and then lighting is really just whether or not the city wants to do lighting. And then my recommendation for lighting is always to make it a pay-for-play. So if you want to use the lights, you could probably zone the park out and just make them plunk quarters in. Or run a credit card would be awesome. So if you want to use the park at night, you just swipe your card. It's in 30-minute chunks or hour chunks. And you get some kind of audible alarm when it's going to shut off in 2 minutes or something, 5 minutes. And you just zone that out. You could probably do 4 zones. You could do the bowl would be zone 1, street zone 2. You might be able to do this area down here is zone 3, and then this part in this open area here is zone 4. I'm not quite sure how you'd break it up, or maybe you could do paths, or maybe you'd only light the bowl in this upper area and the rest of the park is closed at night. Maybe this area. We'll talk about seating real quick because I like the idea of this eye on the end. So this is a concrete bench that runs all the way around. That's all seating. And it actually faces out so people can watch the bay. It's just I noticed in a lot of your guys' photos, there's runners that use this path here in the morning to walk and run. So this is a nice place to be able to stop. It provides planting. And what I'll say about the planting here is there's such an elevation difference between the park and this planting area, other than leaves and pine needles possibly falling off of trees. None of the bark, none of the rocks, none of the planting is going to end up in the park from that low area there. This would be the second planting. This one is a little bit closer to the height of the park. I still purposely showed the level of the dirt being lower. And if you notice, all the water that hits this part of the park right here drains into that planter. I don't know what Hoboken's rainfall looks like, but it's a passive way to collect water and put it in that planter. So you guys could do a dry creek bed, or there's a bunch of different planting schemes you could do there, and pump water into this right here. So let's see. You're going to need you're going to pitch obviously there's grading, so you're going to pitch this section here out to the street. You're going to put probably drain holes all along this curb here. I put these curbs in because it's an effort to keep skateboards out of the sidewalk and out of the street. So this curb, and this may not be something the city wants to do, but it's something to consider. It basically keeps people separated, park people from sidewalk people. I know you guys have this other company did all this grass and stuff, but from a maintenance standpoint, there's very little maintenance to this park. Some of this fencing on this side may not be as necessary. I would have it along these tall structures. You don't want people falling off a 5-foot or 6-foot tall structure. So personally, I would have the fencing run along each structure. Maybe you can eliminate the fence down in the flat areas here, but it's something to consider. Certainly in this elevated area, I would absolutely have fencing all along here. Don't want people getting falling. I would actually probably eliminate this top bar right here. I would make the fence non-climbable, I would reduce the climbability of the fence. That way you reduce the ability to fall off of these taller areas. Let's see, I believe that, let's see, what are my elevations here? So, elevation's 2'8" from the main sidewalk to this portion here. Elevation from here to here is 4 feet. Here to here is 6 feet. So that little center raised portion there is a 6 foot tall structure. Sidewalk to this structure is 5 feet. So these are all 5 to 6 foot structures. From here to the deck up here is 7 feet. And then from sidewalk to this top, from the tallest part of the park to sidewalk is 12 feet tall. So this is a pretty tall structure here, but it'll allow more professional people to generate a lot of speed back through the course here. And then the bowl is from sidewalk. So to sidewalk to the bottom of the bowl. The bottom of the bowl is a foot higher than the surrounding area. So you've got 1 foot of fall to get water out of there. The bowl itself from deck to bottom is 6 feet deep. And that should be adequate. There's some people that are going to want a 7 or an 8 foot bowl, but most beginners or intermediate people that's going to be big enough for them. So that would be my proposed design for this park. I think the idea behind this design was to minimize maintenance for the city. This parks are just going to be the bottom line item. They're going to be because they're made of concrete and because they're low visibility from a park standpoint, they just get very little maintenance. So you want to build them right the very first time and be done with it. Oh, Part of the design here is these concrete picnic benches. So these are purposely selected. Concrete picnic benches are durable. If I were the city, I would get all concrete benches, meaning that their entire structure is made out of concrete. They wear well. They can't be moved, so kids aren't going to pick them up and move them around the park. If they grind them, they're not going to snap, chip, or dent or get paint off of them because they're 100% concrete. Here in the Northwest, they're typically used at camping sites, and they're very heavy. They're a couple thousand pounds. So you're not going to move them, and they're very robust, and they're not going to be destroyed. So it would be my recommendation that the city use those as far as benches go. So you've got a huge viewing area up here where people can sit and stand. Oh, I also forgot to show this seat. There's also another seat built into the back side of this wall. So this is all seating right here. I think seating's important. Even the steps. You're going to find lots of people will come and sit on these steps. They may read. You're going to have non-skate park people interacting with these steps because they're large. So it would be my recommendation to put seating. In fact, if the city could work seating into these walls here, I'd be doing that, or steps or anything. Any sort of interaction. These walls can be stamped concrete, which means you can make them look like stone if you want to. You can actually have concrete artists come in and they can carve them to look more like the split stone that you guys have. I think you have layered stone there in New Jersey, so you've got like I don't know what you guys call it. It's like a slate it's basically a stone that's got, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We don't have it out here, but it reminds me of slate. So this wall here could be a purposed graffiti wall that's purposely allowed to be muraled and graffitied instead of trying to prevent that. So, but yeah, as far as the fencing goes, I'd either so there's a couple different treatments you could do. You could do galvanized, stainless. Here in the Northwest, there's places where we do just a natural rust, but I think you guys might have a worse rust problem out back east. I think for the skaters, the stadium seating's a nice feature. They can stand up there and sit and stand and see the whole park. Might be tempted to put railing across the back here. But the idea is that there is a tree, maybe an evergreen, closer to the back of this planter, provide some shade for these. Either that or you put a gazebo in the middle island here. All right, final thoughts. I think cities, since you are a non-skateboarding, non-BMX person, I think you're looking at it maybe from a park standpoint. I would look at it more like a plaza. You're building this structure for people who are going to use the concrete. The concrete, as long as it's done right, is a very long-lasting product, so maintenance is low. I would consider doing all of the bottoms, all the flat sections in a different or tinted concrete. It gives the park a more aesthetic feel. I would also consider tinting the concrete at the coping. I don't know what some of these companies are able to do, but if you can mark all of the very top corners, it just makes spotting while you're riding, spotting your landings easier. I think that planting plants and trees and bushes and shrubs is what you do at a park, not what you would do at a skate park. Those trees and shrubs and bushes and bark and grass all just end up in the park, and then people have to avoid that stuff, or most of the time the skaters have to clean the park up themselves, which they shouldn't be doing. It's not theirs, it's your park. The city's responsible for maintenance, and so It's my personal belief that make the park as maintenance free as possible. Make sure all your drains are oversized. If you think a 4-inch drain's big enough, make it a 6-inch drain. Your parks department guys will be very happy that you did. You want this park, if you really want a maintenance free park, talk to the parks department. They don't, they'll maintain the shrubs and stuff because it's their job, but from a cost standpoint, you want as little of that greenery as possible because it just means busted plastic and things that don't work, sprayers that are, the heads broke off of them. It's going to seem like it's much larger than the park that was proposed, I believe, on your guys' website. That was on purpose. You have a site here to use, and what is it? Buy once, cry once. And so the city should make a kick butt park, make it a destination, have a farmer's market next to it, do some Saturday food vendor stuff, get people down there, and generate some revenue from this area. It's a cool area. What attracts people? Food and activities. So that's the secret formula. Place to go and things to eat. So this is a place for extreme sports guys to go, and you guys should make it the best park that you can. I think the park done by the rendering done is way too conservative and way too green. So, anyways, I hope this was helpful, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good day.